Hello and welcome to a podcast about murder. I'm Jem and I'm here with Freya to discuss another murder case, just to change it up. So how are you feeling today?
I'm alright, thanks. No corona here.
Same. Corona-free zone.
This podcast is coronavirus free. You could listen to it without fear.
Certified. So this week I chose a case that I'd never heard of, and for which there are relatively few sources in English, so I had to sort of piece together information from very sparse sources, or articles that I translated to English with Google, so I apologise in advance for any inaccuracies. Today we're going to discuss the Romanian serial killer Ion Rîmaru. Rîmaru was a serial killer active for about a year, between 1970 and 1971. He is also known as the Vampire of Bucharest, or the Blondes Killer. During the time he terrorised the city of Bucharest, Ion murdered 4 women and mutilated 10 others. So, before we actually get into the episode, that should give you an idea that these crimes involve violence against women, including sexual violence and rape. So I just wanted to put that warning out there that if that's something that you're sensitive to, then you should probably give this one a miss. Just so you know. I was so confused for a second.
I'm not pissing into a bucket. I'm like pouring coffee.
Ion was born in Carabia on the 12th of October 1946, the eldest of 3 boys. For most of his childhood, he witnessed domestic violence, as his father would beat his mother daily. So, you know, it's sort of
Great
par
start.
for the course at this point.
It's really like a classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just witnessing violence, and then you sort of, that becomes your norm, and you repeat the cycle.
His parents would eventually separate, and his father moved to Bucharest. Much of Ion's early life was full of troubling behaviour on like a minor scale, so he had to repeat a year at school. He scandalised his hometown by having a sexual relationship with a minor. And I wasn't able to find out...
How minor?
Well, this is the thing. I wasn't able to find out their ages, so it's ambiguous to me how serious this incident is. Because...
Yeah, because if it's like
if he's 18 and she's like 16...
Right, yeah, that's not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah. There wasn't any... I don't think he was arrested, or there wasn't any sort of legal consequence to this.
I know you probably already said this, but what year... When was this again?
If he's an adult, it must be like... near the 60s.
Yeah, and it's quite common for there to be, at the time as well, for there to be sort of age gaps of certain amounts, and the things that we think of as appropriate now are very different to the things we think of as appropriate back
Also,
then.
I assume this is like, I mean, it's a hometown, it's not like a city.
Yeah, things often stay a different way in sort of rural areas as well.
Yeah. When he was 18, he was also convicted of theft. In 1966, he decided to pursue studies in veterinary studies. No, that's a... what? That was a bad sentence. In 1966, he decided to pursue veterinary studies in Bucharest. He definitely wasn't an exemplary student by any means. He entered the school with a grade of 5.33 out of 10 and had to repeat both his second and third years.
Oh, that's not great.
No. I don't know why he would go for something so academic when it's obviously something he struggles with, but...
Just an ambitious guy.
Yep. During his studies, he was described by professors as shy, and by his classmates as strange. His roommates would avoid him. He was said to self-harm when angry, inflicting cuts on his arms and legs. And he was diagnosed with an esophageal spasm, which is a condition that basically means you experience uncoordinated contractions of the esophagus, making it hard to swallow or even causing regurgitation. And he was also diagnosed as suffering from quote-unquote mental problems in 1967. It's
super specific.
I mean, psychology at the time. Groundbreaking.
That is very sophisticated.
From adolescence, Rîmaru was said to have an uncontrollable libido, and apparently a classmate of his stated that at night, so this is at university, one of his classmates said that at night, instead of sleeping, he would sort of hang around rooms where he knew there were girls visiting and would, like, prowl the corridor.
Okay.
So...
I guess, in a sense, going to places where girls are and watching them in a creepy way is kind of normal.
Yeah, I guess he's
like it's a normal, like, I don't know, like it's obviously not preferable, but
no.
But a lot of people behave that way when they're young and they sort of are curious or something.
Having said that, it was during his years as a student that he would commit his atrocious crimes.
Oh, okay.
So this is when, I think it's when he's repeating his third year. Between 1970 and 1971, the women of Bucharest became terrified of walking the streets alone at night. This was due to a number of reports of an individual who would attack waitresses returning home from work with weapons such as a hammer, a small axe, a knife, or even an iron bar. These attacks would always take place during unusual weather conditions, such as snowstorms or thunderstorms. The individual behind these attacks was, of course, Ion Rîmaru. My Romanian isn't as good as it could be, it has to be said. So I'd like to apologise.
Is it anything like, is it anything at all like Russian? No, really.
Not really. It's more, I think, like, there are some words that are similar.
Is it use the Latin alphabet?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's more like Polish or something.
Yeah, I think so. But having said that, like, my pronunciation of the names may not be completely right, so especially with regard to the victims' names, I don't want people to feel like I'm being disrespectful. It's just that I'm ignorant. So his first victim was Elena Freya, a waitress who was murdered not far from where Rîmaru lived in April 1970. A neighbour heard her screams and intervened before Rîmaru could rape her.
Good for the neighbour.
Yeah, I mean, good on the neighbour for, like, intervening, but that meant that Rîmaru panicked and killed her. So this neighbour wasn't able to catch him or identify him at the time. The second attack took place in June 1970. His victim, Freya Marcu, was barely able to escape with her life. Rîmaru apparently knocked her out in front of her house before carrying her unconscious body to a nearby cemetery. There, she regained consciousness. He then forced her to marry him by swearing on a cross and raped her. During the rape, he bit her cheeks and thighs. Then he decided to walk home with her, although he apparently became agitated again and stabbed her, sucking on her blood as they walked. Freya was saved by a passing truck driver who saw her gesturing wildly for help and intervened, forcing Rîmaru to flee. So, in this instance, she did escape with her life. Good on the Romanians for reacting when they see signs of trouble.
Yeah, because I was reading a crazy case recently, because it was when I was looking up the bystander effect for the first episode, and one of the things that came up was this case of this woman called Kitty Genovese, who was basically raped and murdered, but was she murdered? Oh, I can't remember if she survived or not, but the gist of it is that while she was being attacked and she was, like, stabbed as well, there were loads of people, like, in the building, like, really close to where it was happening, who were just kind of ignoring it, and, like, nobody called the police or anything, and she was just, like, yelling for help, and nobody was doing anything. So that just reminded me of that. At least people are stepping in around.
No, really, I'm surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised by how reactive the citizens are in this case. Also, I think this points out why he's known as a vampire nowadays. Like, he literally was just sucking her blood, which is textbook vampirism to me.
Oh, yeah.
So Freya was able to describe her attacker to the police, giving them an idea of the individual they were after. Her description was later confirmed by other victims, many of whom managed to survive their encounters with Rîmaru. Despite these numerous eyewitness accounts, Rîmaru wouldn't be caught until May 27th, 1971. During this time, Rîmaru attacked numerous women. His victims and the crimes he was charged with are the following: Margareta Hanganu, aggravated theft; Olga Baretaru, aggravated attempted murder, rape, and aggravated theft; Georgita Svetku, attempted murder and aggravated theft. I looked up how to pronounce her name.
Yeah, that's why that one was, like, so on point by comparison to the other ones, wasn't it? You put the work in with that one.
Elisabeta Florea, aggravated attempted murder; Fanica Ili, aggravated premeditated murder, rape, and aggravated theft; and Georgita Popa, aggravated murder, rape, and aggravated theft. All of these attacks are absolutely horrible, but Georgita Popa's really stands out to me just because of the sheer amount of violence she suffered. Her body was found with 48 stab wounds to the head, chest, groin and legs, 5 blows to the head. Experts were able to determine that her ribs had most likely been crushed by Rîmaru stomping on her, and her genitalia had been bitten out.
What? How did you even...
I don't know.
How do you even go about even beginning to do that? I wouldn't even think of that. Like, I mean, obviously I wouldn't even think of... I literally can't get my head around that. I don't think it's... What?
I mean, I don't know if he just had a lot of time.
I'm not even like, it's so horrible. I don't even know, like, I'm laughing, but it's like, what the fuck?
It's so... I don't know what to do with that.
I can't say anything about that information.
There are lots of people in my house today. If you hear voices in the background, that's what that is. Evidently, Popa's murder showed signs that Rîmaru was growing more and more dangerous, causing the authorities to go on high alert and launch an incredible operation dubbed Operation Vulture, named after the street where Georgita had been murdered. The scale of this operation is phenomenal. Every night, 6,000 men from law enforcement patrol the streets of Bucharest.
Wow.
That's just incredible to me. Can't even imagine that many people. Everyone from medical personnel, public transport operators, hotel employees, they were mobilized in an effort to catch the person behind these inhumane attacks. Over 2,500 arrests were made, yet Rîmaru was still able to attack 5 more women and murder 1 more before he was eventually discovered. These were Stana Sarakin, Mihaela Ursu, who was the murder victim. He was actually interrupted while he was attempting to rape her, and that's why he went after the next victim. The next victim being Maria Iordache. Then Viorica Tatu and Yelena Bulucci, who were also attacked on the same night. And finally, Iuliana Funzinishi. I can't imagine the atmosphere of fear in Bucharest at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Police would try to keep the details of the case and the investigation to a minimum, so they would so as not to worry the public. But this simply had the effect of having the public's imagination run wild, leading to even more speculation about this unknown attacker.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think it's important that if something like that is going on, I sort of think there's a balance that you walk between, like, not sensationalizing and not overdoing it so that people are just like living in complete terror, but also at the same time they do have to know if things like that are happening and the frequency at which they're happening and how severe they are, so that they can have the knowledge to protect themselves.
Exactly. If they know the exact circumstances of these attacks, then they can avoid those circumstances as much as possible.
Yeah.
So women were afraid to be out alone after 9 o'clock and would wait to be accompanied by others, preferably men, which I can definitely understand.
Yeah.
From first-hand accounts from the victims and the evidence at murder scenes, police determined Rîmaru to be aggressive, impulsive, and sadistic. The tendencies of vampirism, cannibalism, and necrophilia just added another layer of just horror to the bizarre and disturbing nature of this investigation.
I'm still stuck at the biting out the
literally
genitals.
out.
I'm stuck there. I'm not past it.
That's an image that stays with you.
Yeah.
So apologies to everyone for that, but I had to read it and now you have to hear about it. The evidence that led to Rîmaru's apprehension was actually a doctor's note, discovered under the body of his last murder victim, Mihaela Ursu. She also had strands of his hair between her fingers, which would eventually allow the authorities to definitively tie Rîmaru to the murder. Unfortunately, the doctor's note had been badly damaged by Mihaela's blood. However, police were able to make out the letterhead from the Bucharest Students' Hospital, and they finally had a lead. Specialists were able to determine that the note had been produced in Octavian Ianesti's office in March of that year. From there, they were able to ascertain that of all the students the doctor had seen, 15 had not deposited their diagnoses with the university. These 15 individuals were closely monitored, and on the 27th of May, police went to investigate Rîmaru's dorm room. He actually arrived while they were searching his room, carrying a bag in which he had a knife and an axe. You don't need
so that's just
any more evidence. After his arrest, Rîmaru refused to speak and simply stared into space. Police decided to send an undercover cop into his cell, pretending to be another criminal to get him to talk. Which eventually would work, but it still took some time. Apparently at one point Jon's father, Freya Rîmaru, was brought in, as investigators hoped to shock Jon into a confession. However, Jon reportedly wouldn't even look at his father. During their time together, investigators observed behaviour that suggested that Freya had a lot of influence and control over Jon, and they began to wonder to what extent the father had been aware of, or even involved in, his son's crimes. They decided to detain and interrogate Freya Rîmaru.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they seem really, on the ball during this whole thing. They're really picking up on all these little things that just seem off to them. So basically, one of Jon's victims had been a cashier, and I couldn't figure out which one, but I think it was his second victim, Margareta Hanganu. So he had robbed her, and apparently Jon's mother had discovered the stolen money and asked her ex-husband Freya to deal with the issue. From that point onwards, it seems that Freya was pretty heavily involved in covering up his son's crimes. He asked Jon the details of the attack, and even seemed to know the details so well that investigators would have suspected him of committing it, were it not for the witness accounts that clearly described Jon.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's just so... There's a whole other layer.
How similar did they look? Because
I don't know.
Makes me think, maybe he did do some
he's definitely a shady guy.
He's not a great guy.
No.
Wow. I don't know. I guess you can say one thing for him. He really liked his son.
Yeah, I guess. So it is suspected that Freya used the money to purchase property in Caracal and would frequently wash blood out of his son's clothes.
Oh my god.
But then that makes me wonder, how much was he able to steal if you can purchase property with it? I thought this was some, petty robbery, but...
I don't know the going rate of property in Romania in the 60s.
That's a good point.
But how many victims?
So in total, 13 victims. Not all murder victims. But all of them assaulted, I think.
Right. Seems odd that they would all have enough combined resources on them.
She was a cashier, but even then, how much cash are you keeping in the register? So all of these details naturally made investigators believe that Freya had been well aware of his son's crimes. Because, you don't wash blood out of clothes without suspecting something's going on.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident saying that.
But they were never explicitly able to charge him with anything because they couldn't prove his involvement in the crimes. And he went free. After about 2 months of interrogation, Ion Rîmaru confessed to 23 crimes, considerably more than they had originally thought. These crimes range from, theft to murder.
Yeah.
He acted erratically. At times, he would insist that he was insane and that he did not believe that anyone would die as a result of his actions.
It seems odd.
Yeah. I think he was smart. He was quite smart and sort of knew that if he pled insanity, then he would sort of get off. He would get a lighter charge.
Yeah.
But then at other times...
Or possibly end up in, a mental hospital instead of, a prison.
Yeah. At other times, he would just state that he was guilty and he would demand to be taken to the scenes of his crimes to repent. During his trial, he did not contest his actions, although continued to insist that he was sick. Psychologists determined Rîmaru to be psychologically unstable, which, again, I could have told you that, but...
Yeah.
But no psychiatric disorders were actually diagnosed, such as hallucinations, delusions, or psychosis. Rîmaru's vampiric, cannibalistic, and necrophiliac tendencies have obviously been at the centre of much speculation and have helped build his reputation as a vampire. Rîmaru is known to have bitten off pieces of flesh and eaten them during his attacks, to have drunk his victims' blood, which led to him being labelled a Wolf-man in the press during his incarceration.
Right. Another Wolf-man?
Yeah. But there may have actually been some truth to this sensational term. Several years after Rîmaru's execution, psychologist Dr. Butoy having viewed tapes of Rîmaru's interrogations, hypothesized that Ion's actions were actually the result of a combination of an inferiority complex and him suffering from clinical lycanthropy.
What is that?
That means he's a werewolf. Like, that's...
What?
Like, yeah.
Clinical lycanthropy?
Like, basically...
Like, there's a real one.
It's...
He believed he was a real werewolf.
In a sense. But he backed this claim up by saying that because he acted only at night and had this sort of animalistic energy that he seemed to draw from unusual weather conditions, that sort of agitated him to the point of having these sort of, like, violent tendencies.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
What were the weather conditions that...
Well, it was basically only during storms that he would attack.
Right.
So maybe there is some truth to it. I just find that an interesting theory. That he could actually
that is
be a werewolf.
A storm werewolf.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, you know, obviously I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's sort
of pretty interesting hypothesis to give.
Yeah. I feel like that might be taking it a bit far. And also, like, almost trying to find an excuse for his actions.
Yeah. But that also always happens when, especially, like, more years ago, it was quite common to try and sort of rationalize these crimes by saying that the perpetrator was a monster in some way and trying to explain that they didn't have normal behavior, they weren't really a human being and stuff like that, because it's so hard to accept that human beings can do things like this.
Ion Rîmaru was sentenced to death by firing squad. And allegedly...
What the hell? Yeah. That's crazy.
I was prepared to just go past that like it was normal, but maybe it should be addressed.
That is not normal. I mean, I thought guillotine was crazy.
Yeah. When I was writing that, I was like, well, at least the guillotine is, like, fast. It's sort of like one clean cut.
I don't know if this is true of all of them, but isn't it true that they put blank, like they randomly put one person actually has live ammunition and everyone else has blanks, so that you don't know who actually killed him?
I don't know.
It's to avoid the sort of psychological issues that might come from killing a person.
I don't know. Again, I
mean, I doubt they were doing this back then. But I read that somewhere.
The time period and the sort of, like, I don't know what their theories on this are in Romania. If they're sort of concerned with that at the time.
No, I don't.
But I don't think...
But it's just, what a mad way to kill someone.
I mean, it just seems so, like... It's not even, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's almost such a wasteful way to kill... Like, it's just so excessive.
Yeah, you could just... Doing that is, like... It's over the top. You could just shoot a bullet in the back of their head.
Well, especially since, like... It's not a public
Which
execution.
Makes me think it is so that no one is directly shooting them.
I think
even
that
if
makes
it's not
sense.
The method that I said. But
you just you don't know that you're, like, directly responsible.
Yeah, if you all shoot the guy at the same time, then you're all sort of part of the same thing, and you don't have to, like, feel bad or anything.
So the courtroom erupted into applause when his sentence was pronounced.
Okay.
On the 23rd of October 1971, Rîmaru was taken to Chilava prison to be executed. Apologies for the pronunciation. He was in an uncontrollable rage and kept trying to escape, which is understandable.
I suppose, yeah.
After he was tied to the post, he was asked if he had any last wishes, to which he replied that he did not. He became more and more agitated, however, apparently trying to bite off his clothes and twisting around the post, screaming, "Call my father, so he can see what's happening to me. He's the guilty one. I want to live. I want to live."
Oh, interesting. I'm interested in this father angle because, like, I'm wondering, like, how much he actually is in it. I get that there's the description that they're saying it matches it, but it's, like, night.
Yeah. And also father and son, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe they look kind of similar. And it's dark. Like, how would you know necessarily for certain that you're seeing? I mean, I don't know.
Was the fact that they were able to sort of determine that he had a lot of control over him as well.
Yeah, and like, let's say, again, I'm sort of going down the path of like, you know, if this guy is the killer, I'm sort of like, I'm lawyering for him at the moment and trying to get him off. But like, isn't there a possibility like that he has, because we know he has like these mental. What did they call them back in the day? Mental problems.
Yeah.
And what if he does have the mental illnesses, but he isn't a killer? He's just kind of a weird guy, kind of has a few issues. And his dad is like a total freak. And his dad,
wouldn't surprise
his
me.
son's mental illness as like a cover.
Yeah, or even manipulates him into like doing it.
Am I going like way into like this crazy story? But it does sound like, I mean, yeah, you couldn't write it. It would be like really amazing if that were true. But
I mean, that's the whole that's the problem, is that we'll never really know to what extent what their relationship was like. But I will come back to his father.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm just going to finish with the execution because apparently he was moving so much that it was hard for the firing squad to aim accurately.
Right.
And so his body was riddled with bullets.
Yeah.
Especially, apparently, his backside, because he had turned himself completely around. So...
Nice.
That's just a fun little detail to end on.
Where are you getting these little facts
I don't know.
from?
The Romanian press is an interesting source. Police remained suspicious of Freya Rîmaru, his father, and arrested him 3 times during 1971, but were unable to prove any of their suspicions. But again, it's funny to me that they were so like, there is something weird about this guy. Like, they couldn't even prove anything, and they were just like, but something seems wrong. Exactly a year after his son's execution, to the day, on October 23rd, 1972, Freya Rîmaru died, falling off a train.
No way. That is pretty spooky.
Although many people speculate that he was actually assassinated by agents of the Romanian secret police.
Oh my god.
His body was taken to the Medico-Legal Institute for examination, and they noted his height of 174 centimeters and his shoe size of 42. On just a sort of whim, they decided to check his fingerprints, and I hope you're ready for the maddest real-life plot twist ever. Your socks are going to be knocked off. Let me tell you a tale. During the summer of 1944, 4 women were murdered. The killer was never found, despite leaving fingerprints at the scenes, as well as footprints that matched size 42 military boots.
Oh, shit.
This killer would enter his victims' apartments at night, during thunderstorms, and murder them by knocking them in the head with a heavy, blunt object. These crimes would only be solved 28 years later, when Freya Rîmaru's fingerprints turned out to be an exact match for the killer's. Isn't that insane?
My mouth is literally like my jaw is on the floor. What the hell? That is crazy.
That's just
that just makes me think maybe Jon's innocent.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I don't know if he's okay, maybe he's not completely innocent, but
that's just,
I don't know, or that there's some kind of like the dad like passed down his, maybe they're both werewolves,
like literally,
and like
though.
the dad like passed it through him.
I know,
and now they're like they've both got this like curse.
But it's the fact that it's like,
okay, we're really going out this one, we're really going like really into the
supernatural. But it is weird, and I guess it's also the fact that, you know, that's part of the whole sensational thing, that this detail of the thunderstorms and at night is like obviously sort of put forward. But I just find that and the fact that he died exactly a year afterwards,
that creeps me out so much.
But I love it. I love the twist.
But I can't see like the poetic, like I can't see the Romanian secret police like thinking, well, so we're going to kill him, but we really want it to be poetic.
Yeah.
So we're going to kill him on the exact day his son died. Like I don't see that being.
I don't know how much I believe the sort of the secret police theory, But that makes it even weirder that he accidentally fell off a train. Or did he jump? I don't think he feels guilty at all. He's been living with this for like 30 years now.
How odd.
And then it makes me wonder, because he's got 2 siblings, Ion.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what are their lives like? Are they also werewolves?
I guess they didn't get it past that. Maybe they did, and maybe they've just never been caught. Maybe they're a whole family, and they're all doing it at once, and then it just got blamed on one of them, and only one of them got.
And they all look identical, and that's why.
They all look like exactly the same guy. No, that is weird. I actually wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought I was going well out there, like just saying maybe the dad was a killer, but he actually was. So,
and they never caught him until he died without ever being charged.
That is crazy. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that in my life.
That's the whole reason I wanted to do this case. Solely for that detail of like...
Just to bring that reveal to me. I'm glad I didn't like look anything up about this one before.
So, with that said, remember we are on social media. Completely natural
oh my god
transition there. So we're on Twitter at About Murder, Instagram at A Podcast About Murder, and Facebook A Podcast About Murder with no E. And you can always send us an email at apodcastaboutmurder@outlook.com.
You can also rate the podcast 5 stars.
Yeah, that is something you can do.
That's something that you can do. And another fun activity that you can do is share the podcast like around with your friends.
And also, I mean, if you really want to go crazy, you can like even comment.
You can even, I run out of suggestions. Oh yeah, no, you can write a review even. That would be really cool. I mean, only if you're going to write something nice though. Don't bother if you're going to write something mean.
I mean, why? Why would you? We hope you enjoyed this episode and its many twists and turns. And
I certainly did.
We'll see you next week.
Yes, we will. Okay. That's it. That's the end.